bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. Okay, so as I've said before, I've felt the need to expand some of the topics that I've covered on the blog for a number of years. Because in some ways, even if I'm not necessarily covering topics that deal specifically with race, in some ways, they still come back and bring the issue of race into the question again, into the topic. Certain topics we could look at and say, okay, this doesn't necessarily have a direct connection, but the question would be, okay, if this person is doing this who is not Black, how would it be, how would people react to it if the person doing this same thing was actually Black? What would be the difference between how society deals with that person? Throughout, pop music, wherever it may be around the world, we see examples of a creation that is associated with the Black population. And it's seen as something sinful. It's seen as something, this is going to corrupt your kids. This is something that, it's going to have a bad influence on society. But then you put a white person, you present a white person doing basically the same thing or being heavily influenced by the original Black artist who was an example of this particular style. When rock and roll was taken off in the United States, it was, they called it, a lot of people called it race music, they called it N-word music. But if it's coming from Chuck Berry or Little Richard or Bo Diddley, anybody like that, it could be seen as offensive. But then you put somebody like Elvis Presley on it, and now even Elvis wasn't 100% accepted when he first came out, but he was still much more acceptable than the original Black artist who he was clearly imitating. You get Pat Boone imitating Little Richard, and all of a sudden, what was explicit and this is not good for consumption, all of a sudden it's acceptable to the white, the pop market in general. So, we've seen this over and over again. In the history of samba or, Brazilian popular music, I look at the story of somebody like Carmen Miranda. Now, samba in Brazil's history, it kind of has that same association with the Black population as, say, blues and rock and roll did in the United States. It's a coisa de negro, coisa do negro, as they say, a Black thing. But then you take a white woman from Portugal who moves to Brazil and you dress her up like, the women that they call baianas in the northeast of the country, Black women. And you dress this woman up and she becomes the symbol of Brazil outside of the country. Again, it's consumable because, okay, there's a white woman singing this now. So here it is, 2023. And in reality, a lot of pop culture that's coming out these days is not something that I keep up with because I just think, pop music is just completely going down the drain these days. I remember in the 90s, there were people I would run into every now and then who would say that hip hop, well, that's not real music. And I always was, how can you say it's not real music? If a lot of the hip hop music that was coming out, and particularly the late 80s and up to the mid 90s and the early 2000s, whatever, the music was sampling classic funk, R&B, and in some cases rock music. So you can't say that hip hop is not music when the music that it's sampling, uses real instrumentation. Now, where hip hop is going these days is, I almost want to agree with it, but it's still, even if it has a beat and a rhythm, it still can be considered music, right? It's just, I just don't have the patience for most pop music coming out these days. In order to find music that I want to hear, I really have to dig because it's not going to be the stuff that's going to be on the radio. So anyway, let me get to the topic of the day. So the piece that I'm covering today, the article or what I'm calling it is a Brazilian funk singer, MC Pipokinha, is the next step. Is the next step connecting pop music to explicit porn. This was I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, one of my contacts in Brazil sent me a link to this singer because at that point I had never heard of her, right? And for good reason. As I've said, I understand this is something that comes out of the favela. I understand its origin, but I just never had a taste for what they call funky, in Brazil. Again, every time I say funky or funk, I always have to make sure that I'm not talking about the type of funk that you associate with James Brown or Parliament Funkadelic or Cameo or any of those funk groups, right? Funk in its Brazilian, how it's defined in Brazil is, the fast beat music that we associated with the Miami bass sound, right? That's what they call funky. So, one of my contacts in Brazil sent me this link, say, this is what, younger people are listening to these days. This woman is, she's getting mad paid right now. So, let me check this out. And wow, I mean, in some past videos that I've done critiques of, the Brazilian pop diva, Anitta, and just how far she'll go in sexualizing herself in order to reach a market. And, is working to her advantage because she is becoming popular outside of Brazil. She's one of the, I think they said she's worth, I don't know, like 300 million reais or something now, 500, I think it was 500 million reais or something like that, which is about, I think right now it's probably about $100 million. She's appeared on American talk shows. She won a Video Music Award a couple of months back. So Anitta is blowing up. But a lot of people have taken issue with the image that she presents, as it's already a well-known fact that Brazilian women have a certain sexualized image outside of Brazilian borders. And people who take offense to Anitta is like, you're not helping the situation. If people already had the idea that Brazilian women are easy, and then they look at somebody like Anitta and her highly sexualized videos and dancing and lyrics, what a lot of people take offense to that because a lot of Brazilian women complain, like when they go to other countries and, people find out who they are, like, oh, you're Brazilian. It's automatic. There's a certain image that comes to mind, a certain reputation that comes to mind. And so people get offended by this. So this is what I say about the country being divided between more conservative elements versus more liberal elements. People who don't like funk music, they call it trash. They say funky é lixo. Funk is trash, they say. Other people are saying, you're being prejudiced against this music because we're expressing ourselves. We come from poor origins. This music started off culturally. It started off in the funk, Black music dances of the 1970s. Back then, when they were imitating R&B and funk rhythms coming out of the United States. But as I said, over the progression of that music, what we call funk in the United States in the 70s, and what in turn Afro-Brazilians were listening to in the 70s, that had a more of a funk rhythm based on American soul and R&B. But then as the years went on, by the 80s and 90s, that funk that we call funk in Brazil had become, like I said, more associated with the Miami bass, the Florida type rhythms, So it's funny when I discovered, when I learned about this artist, MC Pipokinha, right? And I'm like, wow, she makes Anitta look like a G-rated singer almost. It's like, how much more can you do? How much further can you go with the sexually explicit nature of the music and the image, the videos, the stage performances? But let me get into this so you can see what I'm talking about, because I'm quite sure most of you have never heard of this artist. And, the point is, I would have never heard of her. Well, I can't say I would not have, because eventually I think, as I follow so much that comes out of Brazil, I would have heard about her sooner or later. So let me just get into this real quick. You just follow this this article. I'm just curious to know what people think about this. So this is MC Pipokinha, right? Now the article, it says that I translated, says MC Pipokinha makes funk fashion go back to explicit porn, right? The singer reproduces in the name of female empowerment. Again, this term, female empowerment, and sometimes literally, What is most violent in machismo and misogyny? Curious choice here. Okay, so this piece is by Marco Antonio Araujo, and it's from the R7 website. So this is his article. All right, it says I wanted to react to this. Funk music is yet to become a public health issue. It's not necessary to appeal to moralism to understand that the hypersexualization of our young people, especially girls, is becoming an epidemic without control and with no return, I am sorry to say. Okay, so here's another image of MC Pipokinha. You can just take out, look at some of the images that you see here. You don't even need to see this video. You could just, I would show you the video, but if y'all want to see it, because I don't even really want to put the video on the channel. I think this photo, some of the photos you're going to see in this article are enough. Some of the titles, maybe some of the titles of the songs that you're going to see, that'll be enough if you want to just go and check out some of her videos, some of her performances. I mean, look at some of the images that you're seeing here. Kind of clear. Okay, without even have to get into the video, just, the picture is enough. So the newest millionaire of the moment, enriched with videos on TikTok and punkadome shows in the suburbs, is a 24-year-old girl who goes by the name of MC Pipokinha. This girl has taken the choreography and lyrics that characterize funk to the lowest level of vulgarity ever seen. And this is no exaggeration. Social networks were flooded last weekend with reports that Pipokinha herself had, let's say, engaged in a very explicit and real demonstration of her lyrics with a fan who came on stage during a concert. I'm going to talk about that in a little while because I don't know, maybe nowadays it's not shocking to people, but I'm just like, damn, what's going to happen next? In reality, her work borders on the purest pornography. Anita, who I had already mentioned, next to her, Anita is an embarrassed nun. We can't even give examples of the content of her songs. It would be disrespectful and extremely rude, but rest assured, those who haven't seen her yet are dealing with explicit sexualization to the sound of gynecological expressions and dance steps that simulate mating animals. As we have seen, if the viewer is lucky enough, the simulation can go to the next level. Pipokinha is no fool at all. Someone with a stray soul must consider her an example of entrepreneurship as she extends her business to the OnlyFans type platforms where, according to her, in a few weeks, she earned $500,000 reais by showing off her body for money. It has a name, but that's another matter. I'm going to come back to some of these pictures, just again, the controversial nature of some of the stuff this woman does. What should worry the health authorities is what certain lackeys call female empowerment. Nonsense. What funk has disseminated now through female singers is the most perverse and suicidal objectification of the female body. It is a juice of machismo, misogyny, and trivialization of violent sex in which, above all, an offering prevails on the altar of the stages of the poorest communities and CPX in the country. CPX meaning complexos. Complexos are like several favelas all linked together. And when it's a bunch of favelas all put together, they call it a complexo, right? Favelas being the poor regions that surround major cities, up in the hills, the mojos, they call them, right? So besides the aesthetic massacre, the aggressiveness of the dances, the obscene refrains, what stands out is an ideological discourse in which women commit, in the name of sexual freedom, of feminine affirmation, the reproduction of what is most dangerous and what was recently seen on the lips of misogynistic funkeros or funk singers. And in the end, apologists of the femicide that dominates our society. Exaggeration? Unfortunately not. So that's one piece. When I do these reactions, and this has been my thing for years, is that I know I see things a certain way, and when I go on to, and I see some of the comments that people post on YouTube on my channel, sometimes it's easy to tell who's Brazilian and who's not, because there's always a finger pointing going on, and this is why I said, okay, I know how I feel about certain topics coming out of Brazil, but if I say it, it's almost like, you Americans don't understand Brazil. So then, so I like to see what other Brazilians are saying about that particular topic. So that was one article that I did, or that I translated from one source. And this is another one. This is from, and this is the second time I've covered this guy's material. His name is Achilles Marshall. And this is taken from his Instagram page. So listen to what he says. It's not just from today that the music industry distorts agendas to attract alienated devotees eager to consume old content and new packaging. The most recent figure to gain light with self-pornification wearing the discourse of female empowerment is the funkeira MC Pipokinha. Again, he's seeing this too. For years, it's been this thing of, discourse coming out of feminism that says this is female empowerment. We have every right to be able to critique what this is all about. Somebody, whatever movement that might be out there, people believe in it, people don't believe in it, it has to be critiqued. And I keep seeing this. I posted this a time ago where you can use this phrase, empoderamento feminino. If you use those words online in Portuguese, and you're going to find the equivalents like female empowerment, right? And why is it that so many times we see the term female empowerment coming out, whether it's in English or it's in Portuguese, it always seems to be tied to something sexualized. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's always, but it seems that the sexual factor has a big deal. It's a huge part of what they're calling female empowerment. It's like, we have the right to expose our bodies and show our sexuality. But it strikes me as just contradiction. How is it that women object to being objectified and sexualized by men, but if they do the same thing on their own, it's not self-objectification? I don't get that. To this day, I still don't get it. So as we've seen, that this term female empowerment has come across in both of these articles right here. Some of these pictures that I found of MC Pipokinha is like, I'm glad some of them are blurred out, because this picture right here, I had to actually blur this out myself, because it's just like, it seems like this woman has taken upon herself, like, I don't care what people say. I don't care who's enraged by what I'm doing. I'm going to get paid. And she's clearly doing this. She was recently in the middle of a controversy again, because she was making a comparison between what teachers in Brazil earn versus how much she makes. And people were, kind of outraged with that, because it speaks on where our society is when, someone can go online and prostitute themselves in this way and earn all of this money. But yet the people, we give them the responsibility of teaching our kids. They earn, we could say 1%, 5%, 10% of what she could earn. If this woman can earn $500,000 in 1 year, or even just like in a month, what did she say, 2 weeks or a month or whatever? How long would it take a Brazilian school teacher to earn that? A Brazilian school teacher is probably not going to earn that her whole career teaching, right? Again, it speaks again about where society is. So moralism versus freedom. As I have already said in a previous text about the pornification of pop divas, it's very difficult to talk about the subject without slipping into conservative moralism, similar to that used by hallucinating neo-Pentecostals. So one has to be careful not to join the chorus of those who are already eager to attack women's individual freedoms. So we see here that a very popular British site they've already talked about this funk singer. That singer MC Pipokinha filmed performing shocking, not safe for work act in new controversial video on stage with two men. Use the title you can find with the, if you punch that in, you can go ahead and read the whole article. I'm not even going to get into it. Okay, MC Pipokinha, the self-styled, they said in Portuguese, it was what was the original term? I think it was the rainha de putaria, which I've translated as something like the queen of whorism. Okay, so she gained the spotlight because of her performances that are simulations of the sexual act on stage. Many funk singers have been doing this for a long time, but this girl has taken it to a level above the problematic. So yeah, the sexualization of funk music, whether it's in male lyrics or female lyrics, it's been sexualized for a long time. We've heard about some of the things you'll find in a funk dance, what's going on there. The girls coming out of these dances pregnant, not knowing who the father is, right? So this is nothing new, but it's just saying here, this girl has just, if it was at a 10 before, this girl is taking it up to like a 50. Whereas I did a video a couple of weeks ago where people were outraged because Anita, it seems to be prepping a new music video, but she filmed a scene in this favela. She tried to block everybody off. She closed down the street so nobody could see what she was doing. And how can we say, she was simulating her eggplant swallowing skills, right? And residents took a picture. She was in a community, so people opened up their windows and started taking pictures, and it got released to the public. Now, Anita was simulating this act, whereas this girl, MC Pipokinha, I can honestly see her probably doing something like this live. I mean, she has an OnlyFans page. If you punch up her name under videos, you could actually see that some of her material is being posted on like porn sites, PORN sites, right? So again, she's taking it to another level. Let me see. She has been, how can we say, self-pleasured on stage by fans, performing rape in front of an audience of teenagers. Well, that would be normal considering what we already have with Anita and Luisa Sonza on the market. Luisa Sonza is another singer. I have to talk about her another time. But Pipokinha does all of this by embodying childish ways, from the way she speaks, through the way she ties up her hair, to the professional nickname in the diminutive that exerts strong appeal among the youngest. Some of the stuff that I see, it kind of reminds me, some years ago, I remember some of the outrageous stuff that Miley Cyrus was doing on stage. I have to say, this is even going, further than that. Like I said, I have to get into these pictures in a minute so you can understand what's going on here. The problem is always the structure, okay? A childish adult ready to be consumed by an audience that no longer needs to resort to forbidden sites to have PORN. Only that the funketa is just a symptom. Men run the music business, and it's not conspiracy to say we gained a lot from the aesthetics of PORN because we regained the previous status that PORN has been losing with the debates about the evils of its consumption. The body as a territory of struggle. Okay, you know who these two women are. When Madonna displayed her sensuality by kissing a black Jesus, what was that? Her Like a Prayer video, I remember that. There was something to be said about the oppression that women's bodies suffered, and the shock had a purpose. It hit the heart of America's hypocritical and outdated Christian morality. Beyonce's black body is a symbol that serves as an addendum to the powerful discourse about emancipation and freedom desired by women. Now, I did a piece, I don't know, maybe last week or the week before, just showing this image that Beyonce had in these, I don't know, like these blue jeans with, her entire backside was exposed. So again, it's like, okay, when we talk about women's female empowerment, why is it that it always has to be something involving where the clothes come off? Make me understand that. Anyway, so here we're saying, but men do these same type of videos, right? Men have done this in videos. I don't even know what video this is from, but I'm saying, okay, you see, we've all seen this in hip hop. So it's kind of the same thing as being reproduced in Brazilian funk in terms of the images. There was a video that I did some years ago where what they were calling ostentatious funk, where the videos that were coming out of Brazilian funk, it looked like the hip hop videos of the mid 90s. They were with all the gyrating asses, the yachts and the mansions and the fancy cars. It was like, if it wasn't put to a Brazilian funk rhythm and the funk singer singing in Portuguese, if you were just turn the volume down, you'd think you were looking at some 90s hip hop, American hip hop videos, right? So yeah, we've seen men do this for years, and women have complained about the objectification of women's bodies in these videos. But again, okay, so women funk singers are doing the same thing, and that's cool. when it comes down to it, there are those who say that when it's men, nobody says anything. Well, that's not true. What I'm questioning is that if women are speaking out on when men present women's sexuality this way in music videos, why is it cool that somebody like MC Pipokinha or Anita or any of these other funk singers can do it in the video, but that's cool? But it is precisely because women have been so critical of the constant objectification of female bodies in rap, funk, and other music videos that the movement to take back power over what to do with oneself has given away. But it feels like we've gone full circle and we men don't have to work so hard anymore. What he's saying here is like, reality, okay, this is what I'm saying. If all of the male funk singers stop singing these songs and creating certain types of videos, they would be replaced with what the women are doing now, right? So men don't have to work so hard at doing this anymore. Where is the freedom? Our body is our highest form of expression. Whatever a moralist wishes to forbid, one must release. But one must be careful how much of this freedom has only been given to please those who really gain from the exaggerated exposure of the body to the point that it ceases to be subject and becomes only an object. There's a fine line, Okay, so this goes into something that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. What is the difference? How is it perceived in society when a Black person does something versus a white person doing the same thing? They can be doing the exact same act. There was a video I did some time back, and a couple articles on the blog that showed the differences between if you put a Black man in a suit versus a white man in a suit, and how people, the type of job that they imagine these two people doing. It was, if a white man is wearing a suit, he must be a CEO of a company, versus if a Black man is wearing a suit, he's probably working security in a shopping mall. So again, same context, same background, but you change the skin color and the phenotype, and two different people doing the same thing has different meaning. So there's been Black women funk singers doing this for a number of years, and they've been highly criticized. Okay, so I mean, there is criticism coming out on MC Pipokinha, but she's taking it up to here, and she's making a whole lot more money. White women can do more. Tati Quebra Barraco, Daisy Tigrona, and Bonde das Maravilhas. These are all, the first two are solo funk singers, and then the third one was a group of Black girls that came out, I don't know, 2013 or 14 or so, they had this song out. But they've never reached the heights that an MC Pipokinha has achieved in such a short time. Narrating about sex in the slums from the perspective of women's power. These artists were cursed and ridiculed so that white girls arrived in the age of social networks with a well-planned path and with profiles that pleased TVs and the internet. And as far as I can tell from the research I did, none of them pretended to be violently dominated by several men or were, let's say, self-pleasured on stage to strengthen their emancipatory message. Okay, so, violent acts. This is what's going on in this this photo from this British website. Again, you want to check it out, just type in the keywords here and go check it out. Let me continue with where I'm going with this. Another image, I have to talk about this in a minute. Maybe it's all my zucchini. It's always funny when I read that. It's just being injured. Maybe it's just me being stupid. Maybe it's just, some stupidity that I'm saying. I am a man, and regardless of my goodwill, my opinions and views will always be contaminated by heavy doses of machismo. Of course, he's saying that whatever opinion he has, he will be accused of being a sexist or a machista, So he's criticizing this PORN funk singer, and it'll be curious to see how people react. Like, okay, that's none of your business. She's owning her sexuality would be the argument. So if a man critiques what MC Pipoka is doing, then he's going to be accused of being a sexist or a machista, right? It may be all this reflection is a tremendous nonsense, but as a journalist, a would-be fan of music and what goes on inside of it, I wanted to give my 2 cents here. rest of the reflection in the caption. So let's look at a couple of these pictures for in this video. Just you get an idea of what's going on here. Okay, so again, MC Pipokinha. I talked about this image already. What else we have here? So this is something else she did that just kind of outraged people. It says MC Pipokinha. She appears dressed as a child and with animals in adult videos, and the web exploded. Like, this is sick what she was doing. She had on this outfit, and she's trying to appeal to her cats or something. People were calling it like bestiality or something. What else we have here? Okay, I already talked about this picture, and this is from a British website. What shocking stuff she does on stage. Now, another thing that happened recently, she's constantly in the news for doing this or that. I mean, even if Anita is making headlines, this woman is the stuff that we read about Anita has almost become tame in comparison. Like the guy said, Anita sitting next to her is like she feel like an embarrassed nun. So this is a scene that made headlines a couple of weeks back when we'll say that MC Pipokinha was performing on stage and a female fan came on stage, and how can we say started licking her where she likes it. I'll just leave it at that, right? What else we have? Okay, so these are a couple of the other funk singers that I mentioned in reading. The comparison between Black women doing this and white women doing this, and none of the Black women have been as explicit as MC Pipokinha. Let's be clear about that. This is another picture from that scene on the stage that I just described. So it was a female fan came on stage and started licking her where she liked it on stage. And then MC Pipokinha started licking the other woman, we'll say her upper body, we'll say, okay? So let me take a look at a couple of other, just some of the sites that are talking about this. So, okay, again, nudity, and well, I think you can figure out what this means without me even having to say it. But this is what she did on stage at at one of her shows. Let me see if I can read. Okay, this is how people are reacting to her. Okay, so during a show, MC Pipokinha's show, a fan took her clothes off and did, let's say, licked her where she liked it. And then MC Pipokinha, on the other hand, started licking the woman in her upper area, we'll say, right? What else do we have here? These are people reacting. Okay, this is me after seeing an MC Pipokinha video. I felt like an old conservative of 80 years old, 80 years. This person actually says something similar. She says, it seems like after I'm watching her, I feel like a 70-year-old conservative old person. This is me after I watched the MC Pipokinha video early this morning. This is me watching a video of an MC Pipokinha show. What else we have here? This is me after seeing a video. So everybody's reacting. Every time I go on Twitter and I see any news or video about MC Pipokinha, I automatically become the most conservative person in the world. She says, our expectations were already low, but puta merda, it means like holy-ish, if you will. What else do we have here? Okay, so some people were reacting. A lot of people are critiquing what she's doing. It's like, do women need to show all of this just to get attention? She said, and another person says, what is this, people? Why do you have to expose yourself like this? She's completely like lost her mind. She says she's without notion, people will say. What else we have here? Okay, this is the original article that I translated, just talking about the connection between MC Pipokinha, and she's making the funk style return to explicit PORN, basically. Okay, let's look at, people are talking about being in shock. Let me see, I didn't like, there was a comment here that I wanted to speak on. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Okay, so I'm not finding exactly what I wanted to see here, but oh, okay, so here it is. It says they're already describing some of the shocking things she's already done, but they're saying it doesn't stop there. She's saying February. It says in February of this year, another video by the singer went viral on the internet. In it, it's possible to see MC Pipokinha being harassed during her show by men who were groping her breasts and trying to remove her panties. Okay, so what else is going to go on at an MC Pipokinha show, right? Okay, so this is another video that people posted online. It says MC Pipokinha shows her breast during a show. You go on and check it out. I'm not going to show this on my channel. Just some more images of her performing or whatever. Okay, so this is the headline that went with this picture, and it says MC Pipokinha caresses her panties, and she's criticized for it. Like people are asking, why do you have to expose yourself like this? Okay, so this is the article where people, I already showed you this picture, but she was apparently she has a very childish look, and then she had animals in her adult content, like again 18 and up. I'm saying, really, where is society going? That's what I keep asking. Okay, so then some of her songs. So you don't even have to understand Portuguese to be able to see the title here. It says P. When you see na in Portuguese, it means in the. So it's the P in the V, right? Basically talking about the sex act. What else do we have here? These are all of those songs. So yeah, okay. So this is MC Pipokinha. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. I just ask, where is society going? Where is pop culture going when you got this going on? I mean, is this something you want your kids watching? Anyway, I'm going to end this here. I'm curious to know what you guys think. I like to share this because you can see with the deterioration of pop culture in the United States, we see that it's global. I focus on Brazil, but I'm quite sure there's other countries where you can go on and see, this type of controversy going on. Just some of the things that the artists are doing in videos to get views and sell more music. So anyway, I'm going to cut the video here. Please do leave a comment. I'm curious to know what you think about MC Pipokinha. What else? Leave a comment. Consider subscribing to the channel if you've been watching more than a couple of my videos. Share this video. Again, I'd like to get the conversation sparked to know what people are thinking. Okay, this is what's going on in Brazil these days. Click on the notification bell so you'll be alerted when I put up new videos. And with that said, I hope to see you guys in my next video.